Good evening, students. Welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy. Today, we are going to discuss the provisions of latest budget that was released on July 23rd, 2024. So, this session is about the key features of budget 2024 and 25. So, we all know that we are in the financial year of 2025 and the government of India has released the budget on 23rd of this month, that is 2 days before, and today it is going to be a quick discussion on this. But before that, normally it is known that budget for the government is going to be released on the 1st of February that particular year. But as we had general elections to the Lok Sabha and for some states, Government of India has done as an interim budget in the year in February 2024, whereas a full year budget was announced now on July 23rd, 2024. So what was the budget that was announced in February is an interim, whereas now the budget is a full year budget. Hence, this is extremely important for all the aspirants who are preparing for competitive examinations, be it Union Public Service Commissions or your respective state public service commissions. So before going into in depth, let me explain some quick basics of budget and what do we have in this year budget as far as the government is considered. So this is the budget 2024-25. A brief of this was given here. So first of all, what is this budget? According to Constitution Article 112, it explains this as annual financial statement. So what do you mean by annual financial statement? The statement of government's finances for a particular year is called annual financial statement. So what does that financial statement contains? Financial statement contains the income components for the government and equivalently the expenditure components. First, Government of India works through various ministries. Different ministries will outline what are those expenses for the upcoming year that will be presented to the budget. The budget that will be presented to the finance ministry. Inside the finance ministry, you have a budget division which will collate this data about the total expenditure. Inside the finance ministry, you have Department of Expenditure and Department of Revenue. Department of Revenue will look at what are the various sources to meet this expenditure, and through this, they are going to prepare this budget. This is in general preparation of budget. Now, this is 2024 prelims question. Who presents budget in parliament? Generally, it appears that Prime Minister presents this budget, Finance Minister presents this budget, because we have been seeing Nirmala Sitharaman presenting it for the very highest number of times. In India, Sitharaman has presented it. But one thing that we have to remember, according to Article 112 of Indian Constitution, this is not Finance Minister who will lay the budget documents before the Parliament. It has to be the President of India who has to lay. However, President sends the so-called finance minister to lay it. So according to the constitution, it is President of India who has to lay the budget documents before the Parliament. Now, finance minister is doing this on behalf of the President of India. Now, coming to the base budget of 2024 and 25 financial year, that is financial year 25, hence this budget is called financial 25. So the first question is, who prepares this budget? It is prepared by the budget division, Ministry of Finance. Now, what is budget? Budget is nothing but the total incomes, total expenses of Government of India. In order to understand budget, you have to understand the components of budget. There are two components for budget, that is income component and expenditure component. In the income component, there are again two ways. One is revenue income, second one is capital income, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. What is revenue income? Income that will not create burdens to the Government of India, nor it will reduce the assets of Government of India. That is of two types, taxes or non-taxes. Tax is an obligation of the citizens towards the government. Again, there are two taxes depending upon the incidence and impact. Direct taxes if the incident and impact is on the same person. Indirect tax if the incidents and impacts are on different persons. This is the first thing about taxes. In the non-taxes, you have services of that was offered by the government, incomes offered by the government, transfer payments done by to the government. So all this comes under the revenue component. Whereas when you go to the capital component of income, what is capital income? Income that will create some burden on the government, that creates liability or it reduces some assets. This is known as capital income. For example, if Government of India is selling a Vizag steel plant, it is going to earn money. However, this money is through disinvestment. It is going to lose some assets. Hence, this is called capital income. So, whenever we speak about income, income is of two types, capital income and revenue income. So, we have to identify how much money is coming from capital income, how much money is coming from revenue income. Second thing, similarly, there are two types of expenses for Government of India. One is revenue expenditure, second one is capital expenditure. So what is revenue expenditure? The expenditure that won't create any assets for you, nor it will reduce liabilities for the Government of India. So revenue expenditure includes interest payments, subsidies, grants, and some other revenues or expenses where it is not going to create any asset or it is not going to reduce any liabilities for the government. On the other side, if you look at the expenditure on capital assets, you have something like creation of capital assets as well as reduction of debts. Both comes under capital expenditure. So in this is called budget. This is called budget, income, expenditure. So what is the total budget for this financial year 2025? We are in the financial year 2025, hence budget is called budget 2025. So what is the total expenditure for this year budget? That is 48 lakhs 20,512 crore rupees. This is the budget of Government of India. If you are writing examinations, this is one important thing that we have to focus on. So the total budget component is 48 lakhs 20,512 crore rupees. Now, how Government of India is earning this amount? How Government of India is spending this amount? Budget is nothing but studying about this. From where you are getting this, to whom you are giving this. As a result, whenever you give some money, this will create impact in the economy. This will create impact in the economy. If budget is given for social sector initiatives or human capital, such as development of health, securing food, securing nutrition, development of education, development of skill, this is called social reforms. So we have to look where government is spending. On the other side, government can also spend it for capital expenditure, such as building infrastructure, roads, railways, airways, waterways, communication facilities, building up Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, building of houses. These things comes under capital expenditure. So what you have to understand is, depending upon where you are expending, budget will be classified as whether this is pro-society or whether this is pro-capitalist. That is the reason why budget is extremely important, because many ministries and every person in the country will be expecting something from these expenses. So we have to look in this class how this money is getting pooled. 48 lakhs 20,512 crores. Approximately you can say it as 49 lakh crore rupees is the budget of Government of India. From where we are getting, if you look at the income component, we are getting it from revenues 31 lakh 29,200 crore rupees. So almost 31.3 lakh crore rupees is meeting from the so-called revenue incomes. On the other side, if you look at capital income through borrowings and disinvestments, government is thinking to rise 16 lakhs 91,312 crores. Somewhere around 17 lakh crore rupees is going to be raised from capital income. So together it meets 48 lakhs 20,512 crores. That is our budget. Now after pooling it, how they are spending? They are spending in the form of 37 lakhs 9,401 rupee 401 crore rupees in the revenue expenditure, whereas 11 lakhs 11,111. Look at the number. The number was fancily designed by the government, 11, 11, 11 or 111. So all 11s. So if we remove from this, the remaining thing is this. So for capital expenditure, they are giving somewhere around 11 lakhs 11,111 crore rupees. This is what we find as far as budget is considered. Now, in today's class, we have to look from where this money is coming, from where this money is going. That will be the concept of budget discussion. The second thing, as we know, whenever we discuss budget, we have to discuss about one component known as deficits. What is deficit? Deficit is a situation where incomes are low, expenses are very high. We all know that budget will be of three types: neutral budget, surplus budget, deficit budget. Deficit budget is that budget where the income is low, expenses are very high. On the other hand, surplus budget is that budget where the incomes are high, deficits are expenditure is low. Then that is called surplus budget. Normally, India is having deficit budget. What do you mean by deficit budget? For the country, normally expenses are greater than incomes. This makes us to discuss about what are various deficits and what is budget is having in this. So what is budget says about fiscal deficit trends? So we have to look at deficit trends And the second thing that we have to look in this budget is which tax is contributing more. Is it direct tax for the government, indirect tax for the government? Whether we are getting more from the capital, whether we are going to get more from the revenue. It is very clear. Revenue sources are far greater than capital sources for the government of India, whereas revenue expenditure is far greater than capital expenditure. The idea is we have to look at which component is getting which part of money. To discuss this in detail, we are going to enter into the numbers where it will be very clear, and this numbers, whatever I say, it is going to be extremely important for UPSC students, Union Public Service Commission. Apart from that, we have to understand whenever budget is going to be presented or when it is presented, Government of India will focus on specific themes. Specific themes. This year, the budget has focused on a theme called employment. And a theme called employment. So employment is the theme of government. So where it is focusing on employment, micro, small, medium enterprises, micro, small, medium enterprises. Then it is focusing on productivity enhancement. Then it is focusing on land and land reforms. Then it is focusing on opportunities creation. Opportunities creation. It is focusing on youth. It is focusing on youth. It is focusing on the middle class. It is focusing on education. It is focusing on education. Next one is N, next generational reforms. And this T speaks about technological enhancements. So budget more or less is focusing on all these themes. Hence the theme of this budget is said with an acronym employment. So this is one thing that we have to understand. Now we will go and see what are the deficit trends, what are the tax trends, and but before that we will look at what is this income and expenditure. I said based on the expenditure, government will be focusing on creation of these opportunities. So I'll start here. What is the focus area of government, and then we can go into substantial differentiation. So I am going to use the official documents of Government of India that has been released in order to substantiate this. So this is the document that Government of India has released. This is also available in your local languages. So key features of the budget. What exactly the budget is speaking about for us? Who prepares this? Budget division is going to prepare this. This is previous year question. Who prepares budget? Budget division is going to prepare it. After this, so let's look at what are the 4 areas that Government of India is focusing on for this budget. This budget is known as the Vikasit Bharat budget. This budget is known as the Vikasit Bharat budget. So what is Viksit Bharat? Viksit Bharat means developed India. So ever since we have knowledge about Indian economy, we have been hearing this. India is a developing economy. India is a developing economy. But the question is, when will we become a developed economy? The answer was given by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in her birthday speech on February 1st, 2024. She said that we are going to become a developed nation in terms of economy in the year 2047. By the time we celebrate the 100 years of our independence, we are going to become a Viksit Bharat, a developed country. For becoming Viksit Bharat, what are the 4 things that Government of India is focusing on? This is focus on 4 major castes. Why they have written as caste? Because on one day in his speech, Prime Minister has said that, in my view, there are only 4 castes. What are the 4 castes? One is the farmers, the second one is the poor, the third one is youth, and the fourth one is Mahila, that is called women. So he classified them into 4, and government's priorities on all these 4 areas. So the budget, whatever it is focusing on, they are primarily focusing on all these things. If you focus on all these things, it is going to lead to the so-called Viksit Bharat in the upcoming days. So this is the major focus area of our budget 2025. Budget themes. As I said, employment is the theme where it is focusing on employment, skilling, MSMEs, middle class and middle class. This is the theme. So look at this. They wanted to develop the entire human development. Look at the photograph that they have presented. This is developing of human capacity or human capital. What is human capital? Building the potential inside the human so that they will use their potential to the highest level. So give them health, give them employment, give them education, give them skill. Through that, they will get employment. So in order for the development, for the shining of this people, you have to focus on this. You have to focus on this. That is what they have used this theme. Now, after this, so priorities for Viksit Bharat. So now they have started focusing on agriculture. What they are doing for agriculture? They wanted to increase the productivity and they wanted to make agriculture climate resilient. So how they are going to be climate resilient? For that they have focused on one thing, national cooperation policy. They have started national cooperation policy. For systematic and orderly all-round development of cooperative sector. So this time they have focused on cooperative sectors so that agriculture can be enhanced. Agriculture can be enhanced. So for agriculture, they are focusing on this. The second one that they made is, in order to, we are importing oil from outside countries, vegetable oil. So another theme that they are focusing in this year budget is, we have to attain Atmanirbhar Bharat as far as oil seeds are considered. So for oil seeds, this budget has, we have to make this country free from import of oil. That is, import substitution policy was announced in this Atmanirbhar. For oil seeds such as mustard, groundnut, sesame, soya beans and sunflower, they have given one beautiful cooperation. So one is encouraging the farmers cooperatives so that they will realize more and more income. The second one is Atmanirbhar in this. The third one is, as India is facing the threats of the so-called global climate change. In order to overcome this, they have said that we are going to release new varieties of seeds. Why new varieties of seeds? Because they are very high yielding and they are not susceptible to climate change. That is the reason they wanted to make sure that the farmer is not getting hit by this climate change variations. Now they are also focusing on vegetable production and supply chains. Why vegetable production and supply chains? If you look at the last 2 years or 3 years, one of the most important thing that the common man or the middle class has felt is the price rise in vegetables. So this budget has focused on the price rise by giving more support to vegetable production, and the most difficulty problem in vegetables is the so-called perishment of this vegetable products. In order to develop this or in order to overcome this, they wanted to ensure that they have a strong supply chain management. The next one that they wanted is natural farming. Again, this is one initiation as far as climate change is considered. They wanted to develop almost 1 crore farmers across the country to go for natural farming. So this is something which is highly present in agriculture. Then they are focusing on other activities of life agriculture such as shrimp cultivation and digital public infrastructure, so that farmers will be getting Kisan credit cards and their lands will be digitalized. This is another land reform that they have said. So in all, if you look for the agricultural farmers, because there are 4 themes in this developed Bharat. One is for the farmer. For the farmer, what they are doing, the impending crisis is climate change. They are focusing on climate change. The second one is they have bought out new varieties of crops. And the next thing is they are promoting vegetables. Along with this, they are promoting natural farming, shrimp cultivation, and most importantly on land records. They wanted to digitalize land records by enhancing digital public infrastructure. This is what we have as far as the farming sector is considered. The second one is for youth. What government of India has focused? India has focused on, this budget is focusing on creating employment and skilling. In this budget, government of India has announced that we are going to start 5 new schemes to create employment. Extremely important. In these 5 new schemes, Three schemes are there for employment linked incentives. For those who are going to create jobs, for them Government of India will give some incentives. Apart from that, this budget also has this budget also has 1000 industrial training institutions to be developed, and they are going to develop internship programs. Those who ever gives internship programs, they will be developing. So the fourth scheme for employment is this one. So Prime Minister's package, and the first three schemes are this. So these are 3 plus 1 4, and they have one more thing for the fifth one, that is called, they wanted to ensure that internship program is developed here. So total there are 5. One is 3 schemes for employment linked. The second one is they wanted to develop skill program, and they wanted to link it with the so-called internship. So this was one of the most important things as far as employment is considered in this budget. UPSC GS paper 3 mains, you have a topic of employment. There you have to use this data. After this, the third one is how to build human resources. How to build human resources. So for that, particularly for those areas, in order to attain social justice, what Government of India is doing, Government of India is focusing on the eastern corridor of the country with a program known as Purvodaya. Purvodaya. It is for plan for enriching the eastern states, most importantly covering Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. Now, if you look at them, right from West Bengal to Andhra, all these are the states which are present in the eastern corridor, and that is what they wanted to link all these 4 states with an industrial corridor, so that the population present in these areas are going to get social justice. So through that mechanism, they are going to benefit here. Now, for women, they are giving almost 3 lakh crores in this budget. For various schemes for women, they gave 3 lakh crores. For tribal communities, one of the most important thing that the government has did in this budget is they started one program known as Pradhan Mantri Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan. This is developing villages, constructing houses for tribal area people by giving an additional 5 crore rupees for the tribal people. The next one is in the northeastern region, they are extending Indian Post Payment Banks. So Northeast India also, they focus to bring more and more people into this financial inclusion. The last one is for Andhra Pradesh. There is a special package for this, where a financial support of 15,000 crores will be arranged, and the completion of Polavaram irrigation project is also mentioned in this budget. So 2 things from Andhra Pradesh, along with the development of an infrastructure node for Andhra Pradesh, they have developed. Through this mechanism, what they wanted to do is they wanted to ensure that there is human resource development and there is development of social justice. After this, after agriculture, delivering social justice, employment, fourth one is about manufacturing sector in the country. How a manufacturing sector is promoted here. Whenever we come across manufacturing sector, one of the prime manufacturing sector that is most concerning the vulnerable section is micro, small, medium enterprises. We all know what is micro, small, medium enterprises. This is the enterprise where vulnerable sections are employed to the maximum, and this is the sector where huge amounts of manufactured products are getting exported. As a result, Government of India has given a special emphasis in this budget as far as MSMEs are considered. So for MSMEs, what they gave, there are some schemes for MSMEs in this. The first one is credit guarantee scheme was given to manufacturing sectors. They have enhanced the trade portal. We all know what is this. Trade related e-service delivery systems were provided for trades, and then for enhancing the safety mechanisms for MSMEs, they have developed this, and then Mudra loan limit was extended up to 20 lakh rupees. Earlier, under Mudra loan, what is Mudra? Micro unit refinancing agency. Under this, 3 types of loans were given: Sishu loans, Kishore loans, Tarun loans. So the maximum limit of Shashi, Kishore and Tarun together was up to 10 lakhs, but in this budget they have increased it to 20 lakhs in the Tarun category. Next one is they have given some support mechanisms. So the most important aspect of MSMEs, that is lack of credit, is addressed in this budget. Lack of credit is addressed in this budget. Not only that, for startups, in this budget, they have given some allocation for the so-called, they have given something like when viability gap funding was given, VGF. Viability gap funding was given for PPP projects, venture capital funds were given to startups, and angel tax was abolished for startups. This is one thing that you find as far as this is considered. The next one is internship opportunities. I said there are 5 opportunities for employment. One is 3 incentives for employment generation. Fourth one is developing the so-called skill. Fourth one is internship opportunities are being provided for MSME industry so that people will be getting more and more jobs. So in industries, Government of India has focused on this. After this, they came to urban development. Government of India has exclusively focused on urbanization because there are some impacts for urbanization. In order to overcome this problem, they have encouraged the states to lower stamp duties so that more and more land records will be present. Street markets, so that they wanted to use the potential of informal economy so that they will be translating into formal economy and transit oriented development. So they wanted to develop something like 14 transition cities. Nagarapalikas, they wanted to develop it. Through this, they will be doing. Water management, one of the most important problems for Indian urban areas is lack of water. Now they are focusing on water problems. Along with this, in the urban areas, house is one of the most important thing that everyone requires. For that, Government of India has come out with Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban 2.0. In 1.0, they have they have constructed 1 crore houses. Now they wanted to construct 1 crore more houses under this program. So this is what you see as far as urbanization is considered. They have addressed human needs and they have addressed some of the problems that are existing in the urban areas of the country. After this, energy security, we all know that we are having energy crisis in the country. In order to overcome this problem, clean energy initiatives were developed by Government of India. So what they have developed, one of the most important thing that they are focusing on clean energy is promoting the so-called Surya Urjit energy. So that is Pradhana Mantri Surya Gar Muft Bijli Yojana. What is this Yojana? For every house, they wanted to develop this photovoltaic cell connections so that the households will develop their own energy requirements. So this is one Yojana that they have focused. The second thing that they are focusing is this one, that is called in the energy transportation. They wanted to make more and more electric vehicles to operate so that the pollution levels will be reduced. This is called diversification of energy in the country. And one important thing is Government of India is going to give 1 crore households free electricity. Today you are paying electricity fee charges. Now this is going to be free. How they are going to make it free? By giving this one. And for the upcoming days, if you do not have this, and if you are using the so-called present energy up to 300 crores, 300 units, this is going to be free. You can use free electricity up to 300 units. Apart from that, Government of India has focused on all these things. That is, they are focusing on nuclear energy, energy audit for each and everyone, and then pumped storage facility that they wanted to promote renewable energy, and then the so-called a venture between NTPC and BHEL for developing the so-called uh, battery systems for energy storage. So these things were developed as far as energy is considered in this energy security. Another important area for our UPSC. Going into the so-called next one, infrastructure. Just now I said the capital funding that the Government of India has given for infrastructure is somewhere around 11,111 crore rupees. Money is kept on the so-called infrastructure. Somewhere around 3.4% of GDP is spent on this, and they are focusing on the so-called money, giving money to the so-called states for creating infrastructure, and Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is going to be improved. Not only that, they are focusing on the so-called irrigation facilities. Major irrigation facilities are given here, particularly for the states of the so-called Kosi Meki scheme. The second one is for Assam, and the third one for Himachal Pradesh, and Polavaram we have seen already. So these are irrigation and flood mitigation mechanisms for this country. And going for infrastructure further, they are focusing on tourism. They have extremely focused on remodeling the so-called Vishnupad temple corridor. They are coming out with a new corridor, just like the Buddhist corridor, Ramayana circuit, just like the so-called Bhagavata circuit that we have in India. They are coming out with a new corridor that is called Vishnu temple corridors and Mahabodhi temple corridors. They are coming with this, just like it was modeled on Kashi Vishwanath temple corridors. Next, they are focusing on some cultural aspects such as promotion of Nalanda University, and they wanted to assist the state of Odisha as far as they wanted to enhance the tourism. Tourism is another thing. So first one is infrastructure. In that infrastructure, we have seen the so-called assistance to the states. The second one is assistance in the form of cultural development. The third one is innovation, research and development. So to promote innovation in the space economy, particularly to drive more and more youth to come and start startups in space economy, Government of India has allocated 1000 crore rupees. So next one is they are focusing on next generational reforms. Government of India has focused on next generation reforms, particularly they wanted to bridge the gap of rural and urban area, just like the so-called urbanization. They wanted to provide the same facilities that are present in urban areas in the rural areas, and they wanted to digitalize the land records in these areas. For that, they were developing the land record systems, and this is another beauty of this budget. So this can be used in land reforms in India. So these are all related to the land reforms program that Government of India has focused on. Now they are giving this data. I'll come back to this data in a while. This is tax proposals that Government of India has announced, direct tax proposals, where rupee is coming, where rupee is going, and what are the major allocations. First, let's look at what are the major allocations that Government of India has done, and then we can come across this. So, the major allocations for the schemes that Government of India has done is, for Manrega, they have given 86,000 crore rupees. 86,000 crore rupees. For R&D projects, they have given 1200 crore rupees. For nuclear energy, 2228 crore rupees. For production linked incentive scheme for pharmaceuticals, 2143 schemes were given, 143 crores was given. And then for semiconductor industry, 6903 crores. For solar grid, 10,000 crores. Next one is for DBT, LPG connections, 1500 crores. Lines of credit under IDEA scheme, 3849 crores. These are the major money that they are giving. Now look at the receipts component. Receipts. This receipts I have already discussed in this component. So what is the total receipts for revenue? What is the total receipts for capital? So that was again explained in this system. If you look at 31.3 lakh crores are coming from revenue, whereas from the capital 16.9 lakh crores is coming. Now one thing that you have to identify here is one beauty in this revenue receipts and capital receipts is, we all know whenever Government of India is getting more revenue receipts, it is good for the government compared to the capital receipts, because capital receipts are the receipts that is going to create liability for the government. But here, if you look year on year, the revenue receipts of the government has been increasing. As a result, this is one advantage for the government. This shows that the capability of the government to collect the revenues have increased. Whereas when it comes to the capital receipts, government is borrowing or government is spending less money through disinvestments. So this is one thing that you have to identify. 31.3 lakh crores has come from revenue, whereas from the capital 16.9 lakh crores has come. So this is the revenue receipts component. And the expenditure component, just like we have discussed in this, the revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure that we have. If you look at this system, how much expenditure is there? Revenue expenditure has went to 37.1 lakh crores this year, whereas effective capital expenditure that has been increased to 15 lakh crores. Effective in the sense it includes both the so-called the capital expenditure that is done by the Government of India, as well as the expenditure that is done by the so-called states on creating capital assets. One another thing that we have to observe here is, whenever effective capital expenditure is increasing, it is always a good gesture that Government of India is creating more and more revenues or more and more avenues for generation of this capital assets. Right. So this is another thing, receipts, major allocations, and for major expenditure, This is what they have given. If you are writing local exams like group 1, group 2, you have to go through this, how much money was allocated to each and everything, but UPSC did not focus all these things. So, however, this is important for groups. Now look, from where rupee is coming from. So this is one thing that we have to understand. From where money is coming from. So what do I mean? From where your money is coming? Revenue. So if you look at from where it is coming, that was given beautifully in the budget document like this. If you look at this, the major portion of your money is coming from borrowings. 27% of the 100 paisa is coming from the so-called borrowings. So borrowings form largest component of our budget. The second one, after 27%, 19% is coming from personal income tax. 19% is coming from personal income tax, 18% from GST, 17% from corporate tax. This is important for UPSC prelims. They will ask the descending order of revenues for Government of India. So if you look at the incomes, highest is from borrowings, followed by the so-called income tax, followed by the so-called GST, followed by the so-called corporate tax, and then comes non-tax receipts. This is the order that you have to remember. This is the order that you have to remember. So if you want me to classify this entire thing, so in the revenue component or in the income component, largest is from borrowings, followed by IT, personal income tax in this, followed by GST, indirect tax, followed by corporation tax, and then non-tax revenue. So highest amount is here, followed by here, followed by here, and then you have corporate tax here, and fifth one is non-tax revenue. This order is extremely important. This is first order that you have to remember as far as the budget is considered. Rupee is coming from, where rupee is coming from, extremely important. After understanding where rupee is coming from, you have to know where rupee is going out. Government of India is collecting money, from where it is going out. I have already said this. Rupee is going out for these expenses. Now what are in detail expenses? That is what you have to understand here. If you look at the in detail expenses to which rupee is going, 21% of the entire share of government is going to states. Union government has the responsibility to devolve the states according to Finance Commission recommendations. So 21% is going to the states. The next highest amount is going for interest payments. Extremely important. Look at this. Interest payments carry the next highest burden of Government of India. And this is revenue expenditure, by the way. Next one is central sector schemes. Central sector schemes, that is 16%. Next one is 9% on your Finance Commission transfers and other expenditure, and then subsidies 6%, defense 8%. So just remember the first two, that is 21% is to the state shares, second one is interest payments 19%. These are the two things that you have to remember as far as where money is going, where money is coming and where money is going. Right. So when it comes to the tax structure, Government of India has created some tax reforms that you have to understand. Let me quickly go through this. So if you look at the tax structures and tax reforms that the Government of India has done in the tax, they are going to review the old tax system that is present in the country, that is called the income tax of 1961. There are some challenges here that is going to look at it. Then they want to simplify TDS, and then they want to simplify the so-called litigations, and they wanted to deepen the tax base. The total number of people who are paying the tax, personal income tax, they wanted to deepen it. So this is one of the most important tax reforms. One is transforming the so-called Income Tax Act, simplification, and then litigations and appeals they wanted to reduce, and deepening the tax base. These are the four reforms that they brought in the tax structure. And then there has been some changes in the custom duty. This is not that much important unless and until you are a chartered accountant. So they have given some tax exemptions. This is not that much important for us. Next, direct tax proposals. So what they did for direct tax proposals is particularly the angel tax, that is important. They have abolished this angel tax for all the classes of investors. This is extremely important as far as the other things are considered. Corporate tax on foreign companies have been reduced from 40% to 35%. This is another thing that you have to understand. So two things are extremely important here, and then this is going to be the thing. And for us, for the common man, how it is going to have. So savings up to 17,500 rupees has been enhanced in this budget. Why? Because they have divided the tax slabs into these segments now. A new tax slabs has come all together up to 3 lakhs, 3 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 15 and more than 15. So 3 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 15 and more than 15. And what they have said, if you are income is somewhere around, taxable income is somewhere around 3 lakhs, you have to no need to pay any tax. If it is between 3 to 7, you have to pay 5%, 10% you have to pay further between 7 to 10, 15% if your income is between 10 to 12, and if it is between 12 to 15, you have to pay 20, and for big corporates, they have to pay, or big persons who are earning more chunk, they have to pay. Look at this. This is a small chunk. This is larger piece. The more you earn, the more you have to pay. This is an indication of progressive taxation in the country. And they have given some exemptions. Standard deductions of salaried employees has increased to 75,000. From a long period of time, it was 50. Now they have increased to 75. Deductions on family pensions. For pension, it's increased from 15,000 to 25,000. So these are all income tax payments that they have done, or income tax changes that they have done. Now there is some another important data, one of the most important data for us. This is this segment. Economic foundations. How is macroeconomic foundations according to this budget? So if you look at the macroeconomic foundations, there is improvement in the current account deficit. Current account deficit has been improved. That was somewhere around minus 1.5 and it has fallen, and then it has risen. Now it was fallen and then it has increased. So current account deficit, it is improving a bit. So what does this mean? We are not having deficits. Earlier we have huge deficits. Now it was started reducing. And then India grew at 8.2% real GDP in the financial year 2024. Extremely important. 2024, our increase is 8.2%. 8.2% real GDP increase of Government of India. This is one thing. So real GDP growth rate was 8.2. This is important for examination. Purchases Managers Index for services and manufacturing they gave. The only thing is who releases this data. This is released by HSBC. Decline in gross NPAs of scheduled commercial banks. Another important thing from this data. Next, taming inflation and decreasing fiscal deficits. Look at this. The fiscal deficits of the country has been substantially decreased to 5.6%, and this year we are targeting at 4%. So again, this is a good line. And taming inflation, inflation has been within the accepted monetary policy committee range of 4 to somewhere around 6%, right? It is in 5.4%. So this is what the figures are. Which figures are important? Inflation figure is important. Growth, gross GDP is important, and real growth percentage is important. These are the things that Government of India has done as far as this is considered. Even if you look at this, this is a reiteration of the same position, where rupee is coming and where rupee is going, where rupee is coming and where rupee is going. Right. This is another way to look at this budget. Again, this is a document which is shared by Government of India. So what we are concerned here is, we are concerned about one data here. This is the this. Look at the deficit trends in the country ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi has occupied his Prime Ministership post. From 2013 to 2020, before COVID-19, all the deficits, more or less, they were falling down. Which deficit we have to look more? Fiscal deficit, which is in blue color, it started decreasing. However, because of the COVID impact, it has tagged or it has increased a lot. And then after COVID-19, we started coming back. So what is important for us, for UPSC is, this is important. The front line or the blue one carries 4.9%, that is called fiscal deficit. Red one is revenue deficit. This gray color is something like primary deficit, and green one is effective revenue deficit. They will ask this data. They will ask this data for prelims. So fiscal deficit is highest, somewhere around 4.9% for this budget estimate. It is 1.8 followed by revenue deficit, and then primary deficit, then effective revenue deficit. So fiscal deficit is highest, revenue deficit, primary deficit, and effective revenue deficit. This is how deficits are there in the country. This is one thing that we have to see. and from where we are sourcing these deficits. We are sourcing it through securities against small savings, and we are going to buy this treasury bills. Through these mechanisms, you are going to get it. So these two are important, and this is extremely important as far as the deficit trends are considered. This is how this budget is classified. So we have seen from where money is coming, where money is going. That is important. The second thing is how deficit trends are there and what are the priority areas of Government of India for this Viksit Bharat. This is what we have in budget 2025 in short. So this is about the annual financial statement that Nirmala Sitharaman has presented in her day before yesterday session. So this is all we have. Thanks for joining. Be subscribed to our channel.